All right, so another screencast. This one's going to help us a little bit with our convention section of our rubric. So that if this is our rubric, we can scroll down to the bottom. We see we have this convention section. One bullet point in here says that you are going to use resources like spelling and grammar check to check your writing for proper punctuation, capitalization, grammar, and spelling. So all those things that make our writing clear, help people understand what it is that we're trying to say. We want to be able to make sure that we're using those resources. So I'm going to give you a couple of basic, obvious steps, and then we're going to try one thing that might take it a little bit further. But the most important thing to keep in mind as we're doing this is that these tools that I'm going to show you will not solve every problem you have, right? So you need to be using your brain and thinking and all the things that you know along with these tools, right? So you can't just rely on the tools to fix every problem you have. You also have to think alongside of them and make sure that the tools are being used in the right way. So let's pretend I've got my story in here and I've typed it all out and I'm getting close to the point where I want to turn it in. The first thing that I want to do is make sure that my spelling and grammar check is turned on in Google Docs, right? So up here under tools, I can come here to spelling and grammar, and I can even make sure, so show spelling suggestions and show grammar suggestions. Make sure that those are currently checked. There's a little check mark next to them. I can also run a spelling and grammar check anytime by choosing this option or by pressing Control-Alt-X. So let's run that right now. It's going to point out a couple of things. So, looks like I misspelled the word nervous. So I want to change that. I'll accept that change. And then now it's saying I need to change my grandpa to my grandpa with a capital M. So this is where I got to use my brain. I got to say, well, do I need that right now? And if I look back at the text, oops, I have a period here. I do need a capital at the beginning of the sentence. I'm going to press accept. And now it says document looks good. So I must be good, right? I can turn it in. Wrong. Okay. Couple of reasons for that. Number one is because a spelling and grammar check isn't going to catch anything no matter which spelling and grammar check it is. But also, I would say that Google Docs built-in spelling and grammar check is like maybe especially not so great at catching everything. So that's the next tip that we're going to use is how do I utilize another spelling and grammar check to maybe take it that next step further. Because if I look through and scroll through my document, I don't have any red squiggly lines under anything. I don't have any blue squiggly lines under anything. So I want to make sure that everything is super solid. Even though Google Docs thinks it's okay, there's probably a few things that I need to miss, or I might have missed. So what I'm going to do is open up Microsoft Word. So down here in my little search bar at the bottom of the screen, I can just type and search Word. I'll open up Microsoft Word. So what I'm going to do is start a new blank document, and I'm going to copy and paste my whole story into Microsoft Word to be able to use their spelling and grammar check. But what I want to do with that is I want to be able to see both of them at the same time, and I'll explain why that's important here momentarily. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to hold down the Windows button. That's the button on your keyboard that kind of looks like a waffle. So I'll hold down that Windows button and press the right arrow. So see what that did is it just moved it to the half of my screen so that it fills up the right half, and then I get to choose what do I want for the left half. So I'm going to choose my story for the left half, and now I can see which, I can see both of them at the same time, right? So I could also resize this now to make sure that I can read the whole story, and now I've got both windows. I could also have pressed Windows left on this window to move it to the left half of the screen. So Windows right or Windows left will help you be able to see multiple windows at once, okay? So here's what I want to do. I want to select everything. So I can click and highlight all of this, or I can press Control-A to select everything. And then I'm going to copy it. So I could right click and copy, or I could press Control-C. And then I'm going to go into Microsoft Word and I'm going to press Control-V, or I could right click to paste it. Okay, so that puts my whole story in here, and you'll already notice, oh my gosh, look at all these lines that are showing up under stuff that were not in Google Docs. So there's probably a few things that I need to catch here that maybe Google Docs didn't catch. But again, I'm using my brain. So let me show you how we're going to go through and check all of our work here. So up here at the top of Microsoft Word, you have this review button. You can click on that and it'll give you all these different options. You're going to come over here to proofing, and then you want to open up the editor. So you open up the editor and it says, oh my gosh, it has 21 suggestions for me. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that some of those suggestions might be good, some of them might not be good. So what I can do is I can click on that 21 total suggestions and it's going to walk me through things. Now here's the example that proves that I have to be smarter than the than the Microsoft Word grammar check, because the first thing it tells me is that the title of this story should be "It is not about the fish" rather than "It's not about the fish." And it says, well, that's a formality issue. It says in formal writing, try spelling out the words. Guess what? You're writing a story. You're not writing formal writing. So it's okay that it's called "It's not about the fish." So that one, I'm gonna ignore this. I'm gonna move to the next suggestion by clicking this little right arrow. Now this one says I could see my sentences. I could see her eyes looking at me in the rearview mirror from where she sat in the driver's seat. Uh-oh. So that one Google Docs didn't catch, right? So I need to change that to where. Now I can click on where and it'll change it in here, but I'm going to explain to you for reasons that'll become obvious later. What is going to help is to go back to the Google Doc and just change it in the Google Doc instead of changing it straight in Microsoft Word. So I'm going to find that place in here and I'm going to change that word to where. Okay, and then I can click through the next one. It says it should be drivers with an apostrophe. I'll tell you that's correct after I think through it, make sure that it is right. Sure, turns out it is right, so I'll make that change in here. But again, as I click through, there's going to be some places in my grammar check where it might be things that I need to change. So here's a spelling issue. I spelled the word weekend wrong, so I can change that over here. If I come back over here and keep going, it might give me more suggestions that I don't want, right? I don't want to change wasn't to was not, because that's part of the informal nature of my storytelling. It might be something that a character says in dialogue that I want to be informal because I want that dialogue to sound really natural. Okay, so you have to think through, is this a change that matters or a change that doesn't matter? Okay, so I can skip the ones that don't, but I'll show you. Let me see if I can get to one that does matter. So down here, here's another one that Google Docs didn't catch, but if you notice, it's saying the next morning I woke up and smelled bacon, which is all I needed to hop out of bed and make my way to the kitchen. It's saying I need a comma after the word morning. Turns out I do. That's an introductory phrase. So I'm going to find that in here and put that comma there. Okay, now at this point you might be thinking, well, Mr. Graham, why don't you just fix all of that stuff in Microsoft Word and then copy and paste it back into Google Docs so you don't have to make the changes in here. You can just select all the changes here. I'll show you why. So let's assume that I made all of those changes and now I'm ready to copy and paste it back in. So I'll come back, I'll highlight it all. I'll Control C to copy. If I come back in here to paste it in there, look how weird and strange it looks. So all my indents went away. It's putting extra spaces between the paragraphs. That's a bunch of stuff I'm going to have to go back and change, and I don't want to have to change that. Okay. The problem is that Google Docs and Microsoft Word don't really play nice with each other. So the workaround that we would do is what I just demonstrated to you here, which is, you recognize the mistake in Microsoft Word, but fix the mistake in Google Docs. That way you'll avoid having to go back through and change all your paragraphing and stuff. Okay, so that's a tool that will help. Like I said, you still need to give it a once over. You still need to, I would recommend reading it out loud or having someone else read it out loud to you, because sometimes there are things that our grammar checks might not catch, that we would only catch if we actually hear our words spoken to us. So reading it out loud is going to really help catch some of that too. And then some of it just requires you being smart and being able to check where those mistakes might happen. Okay, so go through that, do all those steps, make sure that you're checking for your grammar, and that will help you score well in that convention section.